DEI has been canceled. Yeah. Uh, as of very recently, since the inauguration, first order of business by now President Trump again, who has pretty much put the kibosh of on DEI. You know, a lot of government institutions who have DEI kind of offices, nixing that, and in a smart play, making sure there's no, those people who had like those kind of DEI initiatives or whatever, ain't trying to like keep the thing, but trying to change it into a different name, trying to be slick about it. But no, all these kind of stuff that's in this DEI, BS, out, all of it. No, don't try to change your name under like some other thing. Try to hide behind it. No, it's done, because let's be honest, it's gone wackadoo, and it has. And the first one has, who's been affected by it the most is like video games, where you like I don't play Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age, but like I've seen people who've been reviewing it, legitimate people, not just hate mongers or just for the hate for the sake of the hate, but it's like off of legit criticisms with certain video games where you got you're trying to create your own character, which for the most part is fine, especially because it's like if it's RPGs, but if you start and put it in like surgical scars and different levels of male and female voices, it's like like female voice level A and B in different pictures or pitches, or I don't know, probably most of you are not going to like this, but I'm going to just give my honest opinion about this personally. But it's just like the whole like just with the it's just two genders. It's like, and it's like, sure, are there rare groups that identify as non-binary? Sure, but I bet you, let's say at least half of who cry that out are legitimate with that. But the other half, let's be frank, are probably just looking for attention and just want to be a part of something. Because we're human, and a lot of us like to be a part of a community. And you're playing games or whatever, and it's like you're trying to go to the movies or play a video game to escape what's going on in the real world, not try to bring real world stuff into it. No one wants to watch Star Wars and hearing about women's suffrage movements or something, or real world stuff that we're seeing on the news almost every day. We don't want to see that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, we need to reel it back a bit. I made comments before about, or at least videos before about God, I'm blanking on it because it's just like, so it's been a lot in the past couple of days now. But when you're watching something, it's supposed to be an escape. I want to look at something like a fantasy. When I play a video game, I want to like just immerse myself into the fantasy of it. You make a selections, like you choose like a guy or a girl, If you want to do something that's like hey, your character, if you choose her to be a lesbian, that's all fine and dandy. But beyond that, you're overcomplicating it at a certain point. It's like you're playing like Hogwarts Legacy. You got so much going on just to create a character. I remember in Jump Force, it was like so much going on just to create a character. Or in Cyberpunk, so much. You're like all these 1,001 options to build a character instead of just bring it down like a simpler level. Just trying to make something that seems so out of pocket, and it's like if you start including like surgical scars, that's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, just choose between a male or a female. Choose a distinct male voice and a distinct female voice. Choose your outfit. Move on. And it's mostly because of this D.E.I initiatives, where it's like, as I mentioned before, initially, I'm just offering a bit of an olive branch. It's just like, sure, I could see that, yeah, as that was what I was wanting to bring up. I can see the initial point of D.E.I because, sure, certain people of certain communities were left out at the seat at a table to offer their point of view, talking about like it's instead of having like a white male director trying to do a movie with like a mostly black cast, instead of sure, that could have been beneficial if the director was black and understand the black experience and all that stuff. Sure, back in the day, yeah, that it's been it would have been beneficial for the most part. Like you look at it, something like Meteor Man. I'm pretty sure, no, Meteor Man wasn't directed by a black person, was it? Let me see really quick. No, it was directed by Robert Townsend. I was like, wait a minute, it wasn't directed by Robert Townsend? Yeah, sorry. I thought it was like directed by somebody else. But there's been like other movies have been, with a mostly black cast directed by a white person. I think Scary Movie is a good example. The first Scary Movie was directed by, no, got it wrong again. No, Scary Movie was directed, but there's definitely a lot of the sequels were directed by white people. Yeah, the first two was directed by Kenny Ivory Reigns, but later on it's been directed by other people. But sorry, again off tangent here. But my point is that sure, back in the day, there's certain films or TV shows that have mostly black casts, been directed by white writers or written by white writers or directed by a white person. Some of which we still enjoy to this day, but sure, I can see the point of like, oh, this could have been beneficial. Well, we don't know because most of those were pretty good, but I can see the argument. Sure, it could have been beneficial if it was have like a more black writers to tell this black story, whether it's a comedy or a drama or whatever. But and you're trying to get certain people into this industry, give them like a chance, who work their bars to try to make it into the industry, to get them through the doors instead of it being gatekeep. Sure, I can see that initial goodwill and what the purpose for it was. But at some point, there was bad faith people who got on that side and turned that into something what we know now as mostly a negative at this point. Same thing with like how Me Too got changed up at a certain point, because yes, initially it was to point out bad dudes who abused their power and took an advantage of a lot of actors, whether it's like male or female. But now, instead of like weeding out those really bad people who done some legitimate bad things, now it's lobbed at any dude, and let's be honest, it's mostly dudes. It's been lobbed at any dude who a girl who might just change her mind, change her feelings, question things because you both were kind of liquored up. If it's like all in, like if you being in good faith about it, it's like, oh, both of y'all liquored up. Now you kind of like 2 days later question everything, and then you get certain people in your head thinking like, causing you to further question it instead of just like, like you at the time you wanted it, not to be, mean or stuff like that, but just say like operating on good faith here. You both were drunk or whatever. You both a little tipsy, and both of you was feeling each other that night. But it's just that now it's just like looking at Aziz Ansari, who just had like a bad date or bad sex, and now he had like a whole scandal that wasn't needed, and now the movement got corrupted, and it takes away the whole point of it. Initially it was D.E.I had a point to it, but now it's just gone to the point where certain bad faith people took it. I don't know when the shift was, but there was a shift. Let's be real. There was a shift where now, instead of allowing people to get through the gates based on their merit, now just like, oh, it looks, because let's be honest, this a lot of these businesses who had these D.E.I programs, wanted it to look good because, oh, we had this amount of gay people here on working on this project. It looks good and it brings us more money. Oh, we got this amount of black people behind the scenes of this TV show. It looks good, which therefore brings us more money and less scandal. There's the last thing these businesses want is scandal, so of course they kowtow to D.I and stuff like that because they don't want to look like or a phobe if they don't. Look at like Oscars. A lot of shows probably won't get nominated for certain things if they don't have this amount of women, this amount of people of color, and it's like it got to the point where it's like, let's be honest. Most of the time, most of it, it's like, are you hiring this woman or this Native American person because they've been through the grind of school and tutelage and apprenticeships to get to the point where their accolades reflect their reason of being at this table? Or are you just bringing in this woman or this Asian person or whatever here because it just looks good for this quota? And it's like, it's not, it gotten to the point where it's like now this thing where it probably started off at a real honest, good place. But now it's like, those bad faith individuals who probably been the headliners at a certain point kind of push people aside or getting, strategically inserted themselves in certain points in these programs. So that way, they can cry boycott or whatever because like, look at the Dave Chappelle's earliest comedy shows on Netflix because, there's like a bunch of people who worked at Netflix had like a whole boycott situation. Luckily, Netflix CEO stuck by Dave Chappelle, but they got up in arms over a joke where it's like, let's be honest, you don't have to support it. Nobody's making you or sitting you down to watch every Dave Chappelle skit, known to man and have to listen to it. You don't have to. But now other companies ain't got the same kind of backbone as the CEO of Netflix. They just like, oh, scandal. Okay, let's get rid of this person who's probably costing us money, and we don't want no scandal, don't want no boycotts. Let's just do this. It's like, no, no. Now get people running scared for every little thing and walking on eggshells for every little thing, because now it turns into a sensitive topic for every little thing, and most people can't enjoy stuff now because like they worry about how this might reflect on them or being called out on something. Because if you call everything an is or a phobe, it kind of loses its meaning. It's like these DEI things. It had to be. I'm sorry, and this is coming from a black guy. I'm sorry. It has to go. It has to go. You ruined it. At least you let those bad faith people ruin it for the rest of you. Being charitable, I'm sure it started as a good place and it had a purpose. But it got twisted up and it's not, good anymore. It has to go. Now you have to rely on merit, not just because like, oh, we got this person of whichever community on board, and it's like you're trying to get like gold stars and pats on the back because it like look how progressive we are. No, you care about the almighty dollar. And it's kind of been swinging that way for the past few years. Look how recently, since the inauguration, let's be honest, or at least leading up to the inauguration, a lot of companies have been like shifting a lot of policies as of late. Because deep down, they don't care about these extreme progressive policies that they've been shoving it in our faces in the past few years. Even something that, isn't probably an agenda movement. Like, you look at something like Furiosa, which was a legitimate good film. But initially, people were questioning it because you got like seemingly a girl bossified woman leading this thing who's legit good character in the previous Mad Max film and who's also still good in this film, but because all this nonsense has been going on for the past few years, people have like a negative knee-jerk reaction, and it's just like if you took that DI away, we get back to what things were prior. It's not like black people or just people of color or women weren't getting roles before, or things were gender swap or race swap before. We had those, but it was done so organically, while DI makes it inorganic. It was DI makes it manufactured, and doesn't seem like, okay, do you get this person because they're actually good at a job or because it was kind of like a mandate? A good example is like Michael Clark Duncan, who played Kingpin in the Ben Affleck Daredevil film back in the early 2000s. Michael Clark Duncan was an amazing actor, spectacular. And his performance as the Kingpin, who in the comics has been previously been a white guy. But because not only Michael Clark Duncan was a big dude who, like Kingpin, you seemingly think he has like a gut, but it just kind of just big muscle. And on top of that, he's a great actor. It didn't bother people because that he was a good actor and he fit the build of the character from the comics at the time. So people rocked with it. Look at Jamie Foxx as Electro. I don't remember people crying out, it's weird to have like a black person play like a white character, because Jamie Foxx was a great actor enjoyed by the masses. People generally enjoyed Jamie Foxx. Even if there were racist people out in the world saying whatever back then when he was first cast as his character. There's very minute of them. And even they can probably pick out a good Jamie Foxx film they really enjoyed. So it wasn't so loud and boisterous. And now he played the part well second time in No Way Home. But there was no D.E.I mandate at that time. So it was all organic. He was chosen because he auditioned and he was picked for the part. Let's be honest, Jamie Foxx, even at that time, it's like he was a big star. Who knows if they even had to audition most of their stuff half the time. Like Tom Cruise doesn't need, like, let's be honest, don't really need to audition at least all that much as he probably used to. But let's just say he did have to audition for the role. He probably did an amazing, audition for the role as Max Dillon. And so he got the part because he played it, in a way he saw it in his eyes, and it worked. Despite the whole blue skin thing. But, that's the only really complaint. It wasn't about his performance. It was the freaking, the aesthetic that they chose to make him look like, which they kind of rectified in No Way Home to make it spot on. So you see how the shift was when D.I was implemented. Now it's not organic anymore, whereas people are forced to include gender swap this or race swap that, or they're forced to hire this amount of people to work on this amount of for this project, or to make it so multicultural in every aspect or every little thing in the world. And it's not, sometimes it's not how the world works. There's going to be a more more amount of one sect of people than the other. Like you look at the TV show Shogun, which you could argue has true diversity there, because it's set in the time of Japan where mostly is Japanese people and very few white people, but the white people had to still be there based on the story that was adapting. If you start shoving in other races in there where it did not require it, because can you imagine if all of a sudden there was an Aztec person showing up as one of the pirates or something, I don't know, just out of the blue, or even taking the place of what should have been a white person or a Japanese person and just making it a Hispanic person. It's been examples. I'm pretty sure people can at least pick out an example or two that something like that happened. I think the Vikings TV show had a situation like that where one of the characters was supposed to be mostly Nordic, mostly white people, that had one person that's supposed to be not only, I'm pretty sure it's still female, but they had a black woman in a role that's supposed to be set for a Viking queen or Viking lady, and it's just not historically accurate, because now I'm not an historian, but I'm pretty sure the Nordic region didn't have black people unless they were some kind of taken from some other place and enslaved. That could probably be the only excuse. But excluding that, it should be predominantly white cast telling a story about Vikings who have been historically white. So that's where D.I becomes an issue, where it's why couldn't it be played by a person of Asian descent instead of another blonde white dude? Because that's the story that need to be told. And people make the argument, which, let's be honest, it's a legit argument, where it's you would flip if somebody race swap Blade to be maybe not white, but make it him Asian, most people will lose their shit. That is the case. And all it's going to do is cause like infighting amongst people. Certain things only belong to certain particular races. Like if I'm watching a a, a movie, what's a good example? Like Sherlock Holmes. If I'm watching a movie about Sherlock Holmes, who in his historical fiction has been has been a British white guy, or James Bond, who's been a British white guy, then yes, it belongs to the role should belong to somebody who's British and white. It is their thing. It was created by white people who lived in that particular time period, telling a story, from their perspective. Sure, I mean, if you're adapting another movie about Sherlock Holmes and Watson, you can have like other side characters who are a different race come in to assist Sherlock Holmes or be part of the story. Sure, but those particular roles belong to white males, and that should not be an issue, and it should not be changed. Same thing as like James Bond. I love Jenna Ortega's take on this, where it's like, yeah, women should have their own thing. There shouldn't be no Jenny Bond. I'm sorry. James Bond is like a masculine dude who kills bad guys for queen and country, and who drinks and bangs women, and don't feel sorry for any of it. And it's that shouldn't be an issue, but this DEI crap just kind of it warped people's sensibilities, or at least what is supposed to be sensible, or at least give it. DEI should have like at that when it started, people who was running it should understood the line, what need not be crossed, and they not only stepped over it, they taking an entire marching band along with them over it. It's just, and I can't really say I feel bad when Trump took it away, because like it gotten completely out of, it took it too far. You got to be real with it. It affected the movies. It affected some comics. It affected video games. It affected TV shows, and not for the good. Maybe at first, and once again, that's me being generous about it. Maybe at first, but at some point, you let certain bad faith people into these little circles, eventually headlining them to now they can just cry ist and phobe to get certain CEOs to cower because they don't want to look bad in the press and lose money. So they allow certain things that previously they would not allow. But now there's like a shift. Now there's like they're a little bit more brazen, or they're let's say they're less afraid now. But let's be honest, the almighty dollar is shifting the other direction, and that's where the wind's blowing. So that's where they're gonna go. Because I'm pretty sure if Trump wasn't elected, they would have been doubling down extra hard on the DEI stuff. Probably add in 3 DEI companies inside one, at least offices inside one company. But it's like, let's, like pack your stuff, get out. Now they're not afraid to say what they really feel. It's like, because they were previously in the past few years. They've been like pretty like let's just go with it. Let's not rock the boat. Let's just go with it. But now it's like, yeah, get out. But yeah, and there's gonna be some people who feel slighted. It's for those like very super progressive left side people, not the moderate or sensible ones. It's like those super aggressive blue hair type of liberals is probably tearing up at the moment. But who knows? After a year or two, we'll probably see how this shapes out. Probably for the better. Just to, at the very least, scale things back a bit, so we can have some like at least follow some middle ground to work off of, to at least sift through the debris a bit. Find out like, okay, we can't go this way too far. We can't go that way too far. Okay, let's kind of figure this out first before we start moving it along. And I think since video games are probably the first ones to reflect this whole D.E.I nonsense, it's probably going to be the first one to show, okay, when we're making the RPG, we only got a man, and we got a woman, and these two distinct things. Let it be that. I'm not even like a Trump supporter, to be honest with you. Like, I personally don't care for the guy because his boisterous type of attitude. But, there's a lot of the policies, or like, this other side is, it's like I can't say that it doesn't make sense. Let's be honest with you. It's like, yeah, a lot of stuff has, gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And they pointed it out, and it's like, can't help but agree. And a lot of my friends who are, different ethnicities besides of white, agree for the most part that it has gone too far off the rails. So now it's like we got to scale back, and part of that means got to take those DEI stuff out. It's poison at this point. Just be real with you. But that's just my thoughts on the subject. But hopefully, when we try to enjoy certain movies or TV shows or games or comics, it isn't so doggone, finger wagging, like you're the problem. Do better, Senator attitude, It's just like let's be real, kind of, for at least for 5 freaking minutes. But anyway, those are just my quick thoughts. I mean, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. You don't have to agree with me. It's perfectly fine. Just be just be constructive, and don't go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit. There's a lot that's been going on in the past few days that I need to talk about, but I will see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.